We don't usually conduct our insight interviews in the back seat of a stationary car, but if you have to, what better car to do it in than a Rolls-Royce? This week I'm with the General Manager of Rolls-Royce South Africa, Marek Letowt.
Hello, Lindsay.
That's quite a job.
It is, hey.
You're very down to earth for the General Manager of Rolls-Royce.
Well, I suppose that's a good thing. You know, most of my customers are quite down to earth too, so you've got to be able to relate, you know.
Okay, you're going to tell us all sorts about your customers. Let's first talk about the car we're sitting in. This is the brand new Phantom, 8th generation of a car that is the longest nameplate for Rolls-Royce.
It's the longest nameplate in the world, longest running nameplate, with about 92 years old. And it's really phenomenal. I mean, it's the ultimate, it's the benchmark. It is a unique phenomenon. It has no competitor.
So how do you improve on greatness? I mean, you know, the old Phantom was the height of, you know, wealth and luxury and customization. What's new on the 8th generation?
Well, they basically started with a clean sheet of paper. So they remain true to the design elements and the core values of a Rolls-Royce, and more specifically a Phantom. So they have a new fully bonded aluminium box frame construction for the body, and the ride is unbelievable. It is sublime. The outgoing Phantom was sublime in its own right, and they have somehow managed to improve upon it. They've done really wacky things, like they have a special foam layer in the tire which was developed uniquely for Rolls-Royce by Continental, and the sound deadening material is just phenomenal. I think there's an extra about 100 kilograms of it in the car in total. But having said that, it is really not as heavy as anybody thinks. It weighs in at just over 2.6 tons, which for the size of it is actually quite phenomenal.
Why is a Rolls-Royce, why is it so big? Why does it have to be so big?
I don't know, the bigger the better, size counts, I don't know, all of those lovely things.
Okay, so, and it is actually bigger than the old model, it's wider, it's longer.
It's marginally. It certainly isn't anything that anybody would notice, at least of all when you're parking it in your garage or wherever you want to, because the car has built-in right-of-way.
Of course. So being a Rolls-Royce, it is all about personalization, customization, and they've really taken that to next level. Tell us about the gallery. What is it?
So it's a unique reinterpretation of a car's dashboard. So it is a hermetically sealed place that you will, at some point in the car's life, be able to create your own or showcase your own design, your own work of art, your own chosen treasured item. It's really quite phenomenal, and it's manufactured in a certain section of the factory by a guy literally wearing an HVAC suit. There's nothing that'll get in between that glass and the dashboard when it's assembled, and it runs the whole expanse of the dashboard.
It is amazing. We've seen some of the examples. There's gold inlay with somebody's DNA, there's peacock feathers, there's diamonds. I mean, a Rolls-Royce in terms of cost, there is no limit. But is there a base?
You love asking me that question, but unfortunately, you know, as far as Phantom is concerned, price is down to whatever the customer orders.
Okay, and clearly there are people with that kind of money in South Africa. You had your best sales year ever last year in South Africa.
We did. We were very fortunate in that sense, and we retailed 20 new cars, which is an ultimate all-time record for us. Probably at least 100% up on the year before that. And what was really interesting, it really wasn't on the back of a new car launch or anything. It's just testimony to the fact that there are people who have an incredible sense of style and appreciate true craftsmanship and what a Rolls-Royce represents.
You left out a whack load of money. A whack load of money. I mean, you're talking 5 million up for the base. That's before you add anything in, and that's the very...
On a Ghost,
yeah,
yes.
That's the lowest Ghost model Rolls-Royce. So what do you attribute that to? I mean, we're in a tough economy at the moment, and people have that much money to spend on a car.
You know, I think in any economy you always have the upper echelon who somehow are not necessarily affected by certain economic conditions. And really it's not so much about showcasing your wealth as it is about actually having an appreciation for the finer things.
It certainly is fine, and I like to call it a car for lazy people, because it does literally everything for you in this car, from the lights to the tray to the doors that close by themselves. You just press a button for everything.
But isn't it great that now on the Phantom the doors close from the outside by themselves?
As well. Who buys a Rolls-Royce? Give us an idea of the profile of the buyer in South Africa.
The interesting thing is that the profile of the buyers in terms of average age, have come down significantly. So we're finding that average age of buyers now is 45 years old, which means you and I are in with a chance. And it's really something that it is getting traction across a wide market. I have none of my customers really have anything in common. I don't have a more prolific or prevalent group of people, ethnic group of people. I have a complete mix. I'm the perfect dipstick sample when it comes to statistics. I even have lady drivers, which is fantastic.
And cash buyers, I assume.
Well, at this level, it's not exactly something that you're going to be taking to a bank. So yes.
Okay, you mentioned your age. You are the general manager of Rolls-Royce South Africa. How do you get to that position? I mean, you're quite young.
Oh, thank you very much. You can stay. No, in all honesty, I've been mad about the brand since I was a child, literally. And I went to the Rolls-Royce factory when I was 11 for the first time. And I think that was because I asked my mother what the best car in the world was, and she said Rolls-Royce. So she literally did it for me. You know, that it was irrelevant that it may not have suited me at the time, and I kind of missed that hot hatch phase in my life, and ended up owning a Rolls-Royce. Fortunately, you know, very early on, I did what I had to do, you know, to get the car, beg, borrow, stole kind of thing. Didn't really, but it's such a phenomenal brand to be part of, and I love sharing that experience with people. It really is. It's more than just a car.
You've done a lot of what you needed to do along the way because you have quite a collection of cars yourself.
I do. It's a disease, but anyway, you know, it's like I wish I liked plants, but I don't. So
I know you're not going to tell me how many you have in collection on air, but give us an example, like maybe your top 5 cars in your collection.
Well, I'm not sort of brand blinkered, as it were. So luckily I focus on classic cars, and I've got 1 or 2 really nice classic Rolls Royces and classic Alphas. You can't be a car fan and not have an Alpha. Yeah. Strangely enough, my Italian cars have proven more reliable than my English cars, and a few BMs as well. So the top 5. I've got a 72 Alpha Montreal.
Which we've used on a shoot before, actually.
That's true. And I have a Rolls-Royce Phantom 3, which is currently being restored. It was a complete basket case. It's now in baskets. Yeah, so a few real sort of gems in that.
Okay, and you must deal with some fascinating people in your job, some fascinating requests.
Let me tell you something, that it actually is more a people business than a car business. The car merely facilitates a relationship with very, very interesting people. We've had people arrive and want cars painted the color of their wife's lipstick. I've had a customer arrive and want his car painted the color of a Quality Street sweet wrapper. And
the noisette, the little triangle one, or the purple one?
No, neither. Although this car's pretty close, but it's my favorite, the coconut one, which is in that lovely blue.
Oh.
Exactly. You see, you know your Quality Street.
Yes,
Wouldn't say, you look pretty good. And so yeah, it's really great. And when you build, I don't call it building the car. I call it when you create your Rolls Royce. You know, there's so many different things that you can do. It's almost like being an interior designer in this space, as opposed to a 5-bedroom house, for example. Yeah. You know, you've got to make everything match and coordinate and give it some kind of longevity. Yeah. So often you have to temper some of the more sort of extravagant requests, I think, because I don't necessarily want the car back to sell if they've painted it funny color. Yes.
You were recently at the factory, were you not?
Yes.
And I mean, it must be quite a change of Rolls-Royce over the years. They've always been hand-built. They are still hand-assembled?
They're completely hand-assembled and hand-built. Really, they are. They take on average a month to build one car, which most manufacturers, you know, would just scoff at. The prospect of taking that long would, you know, epitome of inefficiency. Yeah. But for example, something like the Starlight Hoodliner is done by 4 people and would probably take them about a week to do this, because it's completely randomly selected on the one hand, but it's also every little bit is inserted by hand into each one of these sort of needle big holes in the roof lining, and then that they have to combine with some customers that might even request a particular Starlight constellation.
Yes, I believe you can do that, or you can put your initials.
You can do anything with this. It's quite phenomenal, and you know, it just all has an impact in terms of time.
So a month to build, but you're going to wait a long time for it. You can wait. Our waiting list is a year.
On the new Phantom, our waiting list is a year.
And they're all sold
They're
for
all
South
sold
Africa?
for South Africa for the first year, and you know it's a very fortunate position to be in. And Phantom, we started with Phantom when new Rolls-Royce launched under the ownership of BMW. And to be honest, it was quite a difficult sell because it was a design-breaking design in terms of the look and feel of the car. But it delivered on every front, and it broke a few molds, and the brand is really getting fantastic momentum now.
We are over our 10 minutes, but speaking of the brand, interesting things coming for Rolls-Royce in future. You guys have where everybody is going, the SUV, Project Cullinan. Tell us a little bit about that and whether there would be any possibility we'll get it in South Africa.
We're definitely getting it in South Africa. I also have an order book on that car currently. And I must tell you, none of us have seen it. Well, I've seen as much as you've seen in terms of spy pictures, but it is redefining luxury and SUV. It certainly is. It is based on the Phantom floor plan. So it's all new, all bonded, and it does everything. Our regional office is in the Middle East, and we were told by our Middle East compatriots that the engineers went to one of the sheikhs and said, take us in your 4x4, not SUV, take us in your 4x4 and show us what you would like this Project Cullinan to do. And he took them into these dunes and up and down and left and right and all these wonderful things that we know happens in the deserts in the Middle East. And apparently when they shipped over the engineering unit to go and try all of these things, the car actually managed to pass all of these things. So I don't know, you know, not many Range Rover owners take their cars wading, you know, waist deep in water, but I certainly think that this car will be put through its paces, and we're told it's going to deliver, so it's going to be quite spectacular.
And how far along is that?
That's the end of the year. We'll see the car for the first time in May. The world will see what it looks like. So I think we'll be sitting in the back of one of those, probably in the bush somewhere next time we meet, but that'll probably be a bit later on in the year.
Well, Marek, so many fascinating things to talk about with Rolls-Royce, things that we haven't touched on, details about owners and things you've been sharing with us today is just too much to get into. Thank you very much for joining us.
Before you finish, I think we've got to have a little bit of a drink on the house, you know, because it wouldn't quite be the same if you didn't have a glass of bubbly to toast.
And of course it has to be mum champagne.
Yes, because you're a mum. There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers, Lindsay.